Welcome to All Things Creepy. I'm your host, Micah James. And this week we are talking about 8 different urban legends from around the world. There really is absolutely no shortage of these legends, so if I haven't covered an urban legend that you wish I did, I will probably be getting to it in a future episode. If you're not sure if I will ever cover it, just hit me up on any of my socials. It'll all be in the show notes if you want to reach out to me. And very last thing before we really dive into it, most of these legends have many different variations. So if I tell the legend in a way that you personally haven't heard, I just wanted to let you know that there are different versions. So the one you're familiar with is not going to be the same one that I'm familiar with. So now, with all of that out of the way, let's dive right into it, shall we? Kicking off today's topic is Kuchisaki Onna from Japan. This one is also known as the slit-mouthed woman. According to the legend that I am most personally familiar with, it is said that her mouth is cut at the corners, making it look like she is smiling. I will be posting a picture of her on my Instagram just in case you want to see what she looks like. In case you know what a Glasgow smile is, that's kind of what it looks like. But like I said, I will be posting a picture of her on Instagram so you know what she looks like, just so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. She is also said to walk around the streets at night with a surgical mask, or at least one that looks similar to that, on her face to hide what her lower face looks like. She will end up approaching people, typically those who are by themselves, and ask them if she is pretty. According to the legend, you have to say yes, and she will then take off her mask and ask again. You better tell Kuchisaki Onna yes yet again, or she will cut your mouth in a similar fashion to hers. Although I have heard some variations of this urban legend that seem to say that you will have something bad happen to you regardless of what you say either way. So, you better be careful. Our next urban legend also comes from Japan and it's called Hanako san, or sometimes referred to as the bathroom ghost. Something that seems to be very common in this legend is the fact that it's about this young girl who is around elementary school age who ends up haunting elementary school girls' bathrooms. According to one variation that I've heard, she was bullied relentlessly at school and decided to take her own life. Since she spent a lot of time hiding in the girls' bathroom, that's where her spirit stays. To summon her, you have to say, "Let's play, Hanako san." She will then respond with yes. Depending on the legend, kind of depends on what will happen. Some legends will say that she will drag you into the next stall. Another might say that the door to the stall that you're in will open and reveal Hanako. But again, that part really all depends on which legend that you ended up hearing. Our next urban legend is almost kind of like a crossover between a curse and a legend, and it's called Gloomy Sunday. It's also called the Hungarian Suicide Song and was written by a Hungarian composer. It is said that this song is linked to 18 different suicides, including that of the composer. He ended up taking his own life after his 69th birthday. In the song, the artist talks about suicide and depression, which ended up leading people to believe that this song makes others want to commit suicide. But then that leads us to the question of what about all the other hundreds of songs that talk about mental health, depression, etc., that don't have an urban legend like this. Just something to consider. The next two come to us from the United States. One is definitely slightly more well known than the other, but both are pretty well known, especially if you grew up listening to these legends. The first one is the more famous one, and it's called The Babysitter and the Man Upstairs. While there are definitely variations, there are definitely certain things that people tend to agree on. A girl goes to babysit some kids who are sleeping the entire time, and she ends up getting this call from a mysterious man who asks, "Have you checked the children?" or some other variation. The person calls a few more times before the babysitter decides to call the police because she thinks it's just a prank call. The police then tell her to keep the man on the phone long enough for them to trace the call. When they finally do, they call the girl back and tell her that the call is coming from inside the house. Now, how it ends is usually when it varies. Some say that the kids and the babysitter are killed. Others will tell you that either the kids or the babysitter got out, but not the other. And still others say that all three people got out. And yet there are other endings, but those tend to be the most common. This urban legend itself got turned into a few different movies, and I can definitely do a whole entire episode on just this urban legend alone because there's even like a case that's related to it that could have potentially started this whole urban legend. So let me know if you want that, and I'll definitely do it. The next one, like I said, is also from the US. And I must say that this is one of the few urban legends that still terrify me as an adult. And it's called Humans Can Lick Too. Basically, a young boy hears these strange noises at night coming from the bathroom while he is laying in bed. Part of him wants to go check to see what those sounds are, but because he's scared, he decides not to. His dog usually sleeps in his room with him right next to the bed. So, as comfort, he sticks his hand down to make sure his dog is there, and he feels his hand getting licked. This leads him to feel comfort and he goes back to sleep. However, upon waking up, he makes a gruesome discovery. The young boy goes to the bathroom and is greeted by his dog dead in the bathtub with "Humans Can Lick Too" written on the wall and presumably the dog's blood. This one to me is just terrifying on so many levels, and I don't think this one will ever not give me chills. Our next story combines urban legend with a little bit of conspiracy theory, and that is the legend of the hanging munchkin. When some watched The Wizard of Oz, they thought that they saw the outline of a munchkin hanging in the background on one of the tree branches. There are stories of people being treated horribly on the set of Wizard of Oz, so that's kind of partially what made people think that that shadowy figure was in the background. Many others picked up on this as well after it was pointed out, but the thing is, it was very quickly debunked. The movie was filmed indoors, so the crew allowed birds to hang out on set to make it be a little more believable that they were outside. Thanks to this explanation, a lot of disbelievers of this legend explained away the shadowy figure as just a bird spreading its wings. Another plausible explanation could be a sandbag dropping down but didn't make a complete landing. So, what we're seeing is that bag just being caught on one of those prop trees. We are now at our penultimate urban legend, and it comes to us from Romania. It's called the Black Ambulance. In Romania, this legend talks about a black ambulance that would go around kidnapping kids. After capture, the mysterious people operating this ambulance would harvest the organs of these children and end up dumping the bodies in abandoned fields once they were done. Once the bodies were found, there always seemed to be money to help cover at least part of the funeral costs. This is one of those legends where I feel like I have heard some sort of variation to this. There's been a lot of organ harvest urban legends that have definitely gone on throughout the years, throughout the world. So I could even potentially do a whole episode on just organ harvest urban legends. We have finally reached our last urban legend, and it comes to us from India. And I had to talk to my dad. He's from India, and I had to try to get him to help me pronounce this, but I know I'm going to struggle again. So if there's someone out there who knows how to pronounce it, please let me know. But this is the legend of Kultara, and it's a ghost town in India that seemed to be abandoned overnight. There are buildings that date back to the 13th century, and no one has lived there since 1825. Or at the very least, there's no evidence of anybody living there since then. According to the lore, apparently 1,000 villagers left without warning and without leaving a trace. There was no apparent reason. However, some believe that there are a few theories as to why it's now abandoned. These include, but are not necessarily limited to, poisoned wells, higher taxes, and the water supply just continuing to dwindle. But then that brings up the question of why did 1,000 people just up and leave so suddenly? That has been explained by a curse, according to some legends. One was placed on the land by the village chief. According to the curse, anybody who tried to live there dies. And like I said, I couldn't necessarily find any evidence that anybody's lived there since 1825. And just in case someone does bring it up, yes, there's always going to be the theory of aliens when it comes to a bunch of people just disappearing in the middle of a meal or just without a trace. There's always going to be that in the back of my mind. I have considered that as well. All right, so those are 8 urban legends that I felt were very compelling. Are some of them truer than others? Are there any that I didn't cover this time that you would like me to cover in my next urban legend episode? Is there one that you want me to dedicate a whole entire episode to? Let me know. All of my sources will be, all my socials as well as sources will be down in the show notes. If you want to reach out to me or if you want to read more urban legends and about the urban legends that I have covered today. I will see you guys next Saturday with my next episode of All Things Creepy.